Story 1. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend's friends I make twice the money when they called me a gold digger? I'm in a relationship with a guy who also works in tech. He makes $68,000 and I make $130,000. I am a mechanical engineer at a robotics startup. He works at a more stable job doing programming at a large company. He brought me to meet his friends at a party and they asked me about myself. His friends mostly work in tech too and talked about themselves in terms of their jobs. I told them I'm a hiker, I do archery, I love road trips and camping and riding dirt bikes, etc. Basically talking about my hobbies, because work is just a way to get paid to do the crap I love. It's not how I define myself, and it doesn't come to mind when someone wants me to tell them about myself. One of his friends asked about work, and I said, oh gosh, I don't want to talk about work at a party. Spent my whole day sweating my butt off in 95-degree heat trying to replace this busted butt motor just to find the replacement part was also F. I wasn't lying or trying to downplay that I have a good job. That really is how I spent my day, and I wasn't in the mood to talk shop at a party. Some other conversations came up casually that probably also made me seem poorer, like me saying that car dealership repairs were a ripoff and telling my boyfriend that my childhood neighbor's trailer caught on fire and I was going to visit and help out. I wasn't doing it on purpose. I was literally just talking about my life, but I guess I gave the impression I was poorer. It got later in the night, everyone was getting drunker, and some of his friends, not close ones though, were making jokes about me growing up in a trailer and being a gold digger, and being ready to jump to a richer guy. Really misogynistic crap, honestly, since they don't even know me and seemed to just assume all girls are gold diggers. He didn't say anything. He later said it was because he'd smoked weed and gets quiet and has trouble carrying on a quick conversation when he's high, but regardless, I felt hurt he didn't say anything. I got irritated with his friends and asked, now why the hell would you say that when I make twice what he does? His friends went quiet for a second and I continued saying, there ain't no gold to dig here, not with him or anyone at this party, so do y'all think I'm cheap or do y'all think I'm stupid? My boyfriend wanted to leave the party shortly after, and he was pretty upset with me for telling everyone I make twice what he does. I said I would have held my tongue if he'd checked his friends first, but he didn't say anything, so I wasn't about to let them talk to me like that. He said it was humiliating and now everyone thinks I'm a B, and I flippantly said, at least they know I'm a rich B. He was angry. I embarrassed him when I spoke up. I was angry I had to say anything at all because his friends were talking crap, so it should be on him to check them. Stuff is tense. Am I the a-hole for explaining why I'm not a gold digger? No! No, you are not! Not even in the least bit. Oh my gosh, the fact that your boyfriend is upset with you about this is ridiculous. Like, you pointing out that you make more than him shouldn't matter. My partner makes more than me by a pretty decent amount. That's just a fact of life. I don't care. We're fine. Like, the amount that you make does not define your worth as a person, and especially not... Okay, this is an overgeneralization, but there are a lot of guys out there who are really uncomfortable with a female partner making more money than them. You guys need to let that crap go. Just get over it and get over it yourselves. It's not a big deal. And if there are people who think that it is a big deal, they need to shut up and get over themselves too. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. I think that this should not have been an issue whatsoever. Your boyfriend should have stood up for you and said something like, guys, lay off, she makes more than me. Like, it's not that hard to say. I don't care how high you are. And believe me, I've been very, very high, and I think I could still very capably step in and be like, guys, believe me, she makes more than me, and also, where are the Oreos? Story 2. I am the queen of passive aggression. My hobby used to be making quilts from vintage cloth. I would buy the cloth, usually flower and feed print sacks from the 30s and 40s at flea markets and antique stores. I pieced them by hand and sewed the squares together on my old Treadle sewing machine. Then I would hand quilt the tops using vintage blankets as batting and older cotton thread. This took a lot of time, but the end results were beautiful and heirloom quality. Besides, it was a lot of fun. One year, I made such a quilt for my brother-in-law's birthday, husband's younger brother. He and his wife freaked out over it and thanked me profusely. 2 days later, my mother-in-law walked into the house without even knocking. Her reasoning was that it was her son's house and therefore her right to do so. I had been super busy all day and had just sat down on the living room floor to play Super Mario Kart with my boys. I was surprised to see her. She usually avoided me if my husband wasn't around. She snorted at me when she saw me on the floor and asked me if this was what I did all day, and then added that it must be nice to have so much free time. I have always worked from home. You would be surprised at how many people think that this isn't a real job. Then she dumped a bunch of fabric swatches out of a bag onto my sofa. Before I could ask her what she was doing, she started telling me that she wanted a quilt like the one I made for brother-in-law, but she needed hers to be bigger and with these colors. Oh, and she wanted new clothes, not that old junk. She brought these swatches so I would know what to buy for her quilt. At first, I was too stunned to speak up. Then I was too angry to trust my mouth. My 2 boys never liked this woman, and they scrambled to their feet and ran out of the room. I envy them for this because I was stuck facing this cow alone. This woman had always been as awful to me as she could. She had told my boys to their little faces that they were not her grandsons because they looked nothing like her son. She told her other grandkids this too, so we weren't singled out. She had told all of her 5 sons that she would only recognize her daughter's kids because she knew those were her grandkids. She only claimed the other grandkids as hers when she wanted to look good around other people. This woman had tried to fix my husband up with other women for 5 years after we were married. This woman, who had been trying to make me freak out for the past 18 years, was so entitled that she thought I should do all this work for her for free. So I looked through the swatches, asked for the dimensions she wanted as well as the block pattern, thought for a few moments, then told her, yeah, I can do all that for about $5,000. I figured that this was a large enough sum to freak her out and make her go away. If not, well, sure, I'll make her a quilt for that stupid amount. $5,000, but you just give one to brother-in-law? That was a birthday present. Well, then this can be my birthday present. I've never gotten you a birthday present. The only time I tried to, you handed it back unopened. You told me that you only accepted gifts from family or friends and that I was neither. $5,000 up front or no quilt. Frowning and pressing her lips together, she gathered up her stupid swatches and left. I opened the door for her and held it so she couldn't slam it. She was a slammer. As I watched her drive away, I couldn't help but think about how much fun that had been. So for the rest of the year, my husband's other 3 brothers got quilts for their birthdays. Also, to add insult to injury, I made them out of new cloth and not that old junk, as well as the colors and patterns my mother-in-law wanted, because I knew it would get back to her that I had done this. That crazy woman tried as hard as she could to guilt one of her sons into giving her their quilt. Nope, it didn't happen. 1993 was a fun year. So, no joke, my biggest question in all of this is, why did this person's husband keep in contact with his mom? Because what an awful woman for acting like that and telling the grandkids you're not mine, you don't look like my son, and trying to hook the son up and stuff. I'm sorry. I know some of you out there really just love your moms and stuff like that, but you have got to learn to set some boundaries and draw some friggin' lines in the sand. Good Lord. Can you imagine if your spouse or your partner or whatever, if their parent treated you like this and they were just that's mom? No, I'm sorry. If my mom treated my partner like that, which thankfully my mom is very lovely to her, but if she treated her like that, I'd be get out of my house. Do not step back in here until you can treat her right and you apologize. That would be that. So I guess that's what I'm taking from this story. Also, just, God, Story 3. Lady at McDonald's doesn't understand how fast food restaurants work. I've read a lot of these stories, and I finally decided to make my own account and share my experience with one in particular entitled parent and entitled kid. Okay, so a little backstory. I used to work at McDonald's when I was a teenager, and I'm also deaf, but I read lips. I developed bacterial meningitis and became fully deaf at the age of 12. I can still speak since I learned to speak before I became deaf, and most of the customers I got there were very understanding, except one. I was working at the front counter that day, as I usually did, so I was basically in charge of inside customers. This was the easiest position for me, as I could see the customers and read their lips. A middle-aged lady and her 9 to 10-year-old son walk in, and I say, "Hi, welcome to McDonald's," while signing it at the same time. She doesn't look up and is looking down at her phone, so I can't see her lips, and I can't understand what she's saying, so I explain, "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm deaf and I read lips. Can you look up for me?" She rolls her eyes, and I clearly see she says, "Why would they let a R-slur work the front counter?" I am appalled by her behavior, but just try to pretend like I didn't see it. I smile and say, "What can I get started for you today?" She starts to patronize me by speaking very, very slowly, which, fun fact, actually makes it 1,000 times harder to understand what you're saying. "I want a Diet Coke." "Okay, is that all?" "And a Happy Meal toy." Now, all of our drinks are $1, no matter the size, but you have to pay for a Happy Meal toy. We don't just give them out for free. I ring her up, and she's shocked. She demands to know why I'm discriminating against her son and forcing them to pay for a Happy Meal toy. I really don't want to cause any trouble, and I wish I could say I told her where she could shove it, but I ended up just giving her the toy for free. I thought I had avoided conflict, but oh boy, was I wrong. I told her the total was $1.06. After she paid, I handed her a large cup and pointed for the guy behind her to move forward. She waved a hand in my face and points to the drink cup. "Yes, ma'am? You never got me my drink." Now, I just thought she didn't see the machines behind her, so I pointed to the drink machine and said, "Oh, there's a drink station behind you where you can fill up your drink." I kid you not, she word for word said, "That's your job. Do I look like I work for McDonald's?" My jaw hit the effing floor. I had never had someone be so rude in my entire life. I ended up telling her that when you come inside, you fill up your own drinks because of sanitary reasons, but when she kept on pushing me, I ended up just using our drive-through drink machine to give her the Diet Coke. When I'm making the drink, my coworker taps me on the shoulder, and this is the reason that this is in the entitled parent tag. I see her son making fun of me to his mom by pretending to sign and just in general being a jackbutt. His mom didn't punish him or tell him off. Instead, she encouraged him and started to make fun of me with him. I went to the back and ended up bawling my eyes out. I felt incredibly embarrassed and like I had made a fool of myself by having a disability. I turned in my 2 weeks' notice about a week later and haven't worked in fast food since. To everyone reading this, please be kind to people, especially your fast food workers. It's a tough job even if you don't have any disability. And if you see people who have disabilities working and trying to make a living, please be patient and help us out by just letting us do our thing and make us feel welcome. Thank you. Oh. I mean, I don't know what more I can say that this person didn't very concisely put at the end. Just be nice to people in service positions. Don't be a jerk. And definitely don't make their life harder if they let you know that they have a disability. And don't make fun of them like an absolute wretched garbage person, also encouraging your child to grow up to be a garbage person. Lady, I don't know that you'll ever see this. You probably won't. But if you happen to, you're a piece of crap. You're a real awful person. And frankly, I hope that one day karma comes back and bites you in the butt. Real gosh dang hard. Because that's what you deserve. And to this person who had to deal with that woman, I am extremely sorry. You sound like a nice and, frankly, far too patient person to have to deal with someone like that. And I hope that you found a much better job that doesn't involve quite so many a-holes. Story 4. My stepmother gets her just desserts after my father passed. My stepmother married my dad 10 years ago when I was 35. From the start, she was awful. She would listen in on every phone call. We didn't find that out for years. She made sure he didn't see my grandkids anymore, just hers. He wasn't allowed to see us either. Plans were made by him and canceled by her. The worst part is, when he was very sick with cancer, she refused point blank to keep us updated on his health. She told us in a group text that we were mean to her, so we didn't get the information. How were we mean? We didn't send her cards and flowers on Mother's Day. Sometimes he would call me because she forgot to take his phone away from him after he was so ill and couldn't get out of bed to retrieve it. She didn't even tell us he passed for 3 days after. She wanted to make sure we couldn't make the funeral so she could talk badly about us. She wrote the obituary and spelled all his bio family's names wrong and listed all her kids and grandkids as bonus children and left out information like his parents' and siblings' names. She was a horrible person. I knew that there was an insurance policy for me and my siblings to split. It wasn't even that big, but she was so mad that we got anything at all that she refused to give us the policy paperwork or give up his social security number so we could look it up ourselves. She claimed we would use it to open credit cards even though the government and credit agencies had his death certificate. She told us we didn't deserve anything at all, and she was mad that he didn't leave the policy to her kids instead. So, having her phone number, address, and email, I signed her up for everything. MLMs, religious calls, window and roof replacements, things like AliExpress offer emails, vacation entries that just sell your name to everyone. My daughter even helped me find new things to sign her up to so we could ramp up the spam. I heard that she was forced to change her phone number because it was so bad. Serves her right, I regret nothing. Oh, and there was in fact a policy, and we did get it thanks to my mother keeping some old tax returns. I made sure to send my stepmother a screenshot of the policy payout. I just don't get people who are this awful. Like, do you just like being miserable? Because if you're making other people that miserable, I feel like you don't have real friends. Who is going to tolerate a person like that? Like, I mean, I guess she had the now deceased father, her late husband, like, but I don't know. Romance can make you see past some real red flags and bad stuff. But who else is going to put up with someone who's just this awful and miserable? Like, even if maybe they did do some stuff that she didn't like, to go to that extent, to not tell them their father passed until 3 days afterward to try and keep them from the funeral, I would deck this woman. I would be so mad. Like, frankly, I don't have to. My stepmom is a wonderful person. She's delightful. I love her as a second mother. She's fantastic. I would never do something like this. But if my father had passed and I didn't get to go to the funeral because my stepmom did that, I think I might hit her. Like, I think I would be that upset. Like, it's just, that's mind-boggling and so evil. Like, I don't know what else. Like, I shouldn't. I don't encourage that, but I'm so mad thinking about that right now that I'm like tensing up. That's awful. How could someone do that? Holy cow. Video over. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.